Well, good morning.
Good morning, John.
Excited to be with you, Elena. I was reading over your bio, and there is so many good nuggets to pull from your life story. And we're going to pull some of those things out so that our audience can get to know you a little bit better. Elena Vit, she is part of the Mission Viejo Chamber of Commerce. We're super excited about that. And we met, I'd say, maybe 6 months ago,
yes,
8 months ago, somewhere in that range.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been promising, hey, let's get together, let's do a podcast together.
True.
So it's finally our day,
yeah.
And really excited. I wanted to let our audience know just a few things about you, but I'm certainly not going to spend a long time reading everything because I want them to hear from you. So just a little background. Elena Vit is a Ukrainian-Russian woman who embarked on an extraordinary journey over 25 years ago. And you left behind a small southern Russian city to start a brand new life here in the United States. And in the bustling city of Los Angeles.
True.
We know it's bustling, especially when you got to drive there, right?
Yes.
Now, I understand you didn't speak a word of English when you came over here. What was that like?
That's true. That actually was a very interesting experience for me because I really, truly didn't speak one word. I was trying to learn English, but it was still a huge psychological barrier for me because I've never spoken a different language. So I remember myself going to local park, and a group of women were watching their kids were playing, and I heard them saying the word hi. So that's the only word I kind of learned from them. And I really wanted to talk to them, but I was so afraid. I thought that something strange would come out of my mouth if I start speaking different language. So every morning I was going to that place, and every morning I was thinking, okay, today I'm going to try. I'm going to say hi. And then I was afraid. Second morning I was going, and still I was afraid. On the third morning I told myself, okay, it's either today or never. And I went to the park and I said, hi. And they looked at me and they started talking to me. And that was all my knowledge.
That was the start of your English career, huh?
I just continued smiling, and they realized that I didn't know anything else, but that was how I started.
Wow. The 2-letter word, hi. But you know what? That's what we use every day to introduce ourselves. Hi. And then so that's amazing that you started very simply there. But tell us a little bit about your experience leaving. What was your small town like there? And then you getting some wild idea to come to some crazy country of the United States.
Oh my gosh, Jad, it's a big story. Yes, I'm actually from a really small town, and recently you probably even heard the name of the city on the news because it was attacked by Russians. But there are two, which is very symbolical, two cities in Ukraine and in Russia with a similar name.
What are those names?
Slaviansk na Kubani. So my father actually was a Ukrainian. My mother is Russian. That's why I am a big proponent of love and peace, because that's the only thing that makes sense to me. And so my home city is only 100,000 people. It's considered to be very small for Russia. And it's a pretty city, but it's more like a country, more like a village type of living. And going from there through manifesting, that's another story. I learned a technique how to manifest your desires while living in Russia. That was a theory created by Professor Vernon Wolf from California, coincidentally. And I just learned it through the books. And I manifested that living in an English-speaking country, making at least $100,000 income, and having friends in this new country, all of that happened. So I just manifested that out of blue sky. For 2 years, I was just dreaming about that. I didn't really do. And then I was like, maybe I need to do something for that to happen. And so I actually started making real action, I started asking people, and miraculously, of course, I met a person who filled out the paperwork for us to enter the country, green visa or something, like visa lottery.
Yeah.
And so we won, and the chance was 1 out of 50,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
Those are incredible odds.
Miracles of mind.
Give us a timeline of, so you were growing up there, and about what year did you decide to, I'm going to go to America?
Right. It was 1993, and shortly before that, there was this reform on about money, about the value of Russian ruble toward a dollar. So I was working as a music teacher there at that time. My ex-husband, was an engineer, so it was really symbolical salaries. Nevertheless, we managed to save some money. So we had like $4,000, in our saving account. Shortly after we moved, we bought our own apartment. But over the night, without any warnings, out of our $4,000, we had $2,000 because of that reform Mikhail Gorbachev did. And people, when you live in a different country, you have very often a different image or understanding what exactly was happening. There were many different things happening. My perspective at life is it's never black and white. There are so many colors and shades that we have to recognize. So yeah, that was one of those things. And then at some point, we had a very bright, famous, genuine, real, raw, amazing Russian journalist, Vladislav Listyev, who was absolutely shamelessly, brutally killed in his own place.
Awful. Because
he was trying to deliver a truth, through on the radio, on TV, and that was like series of those events. Then groups of Nazis marching in my small tiny home city, and I was just afraid for my 2 little girls I had at that time. And I just told myself, no, I cannot be here. I want a better future for my girls. I am going to find a better way.
Time to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's incredible. It's, sometimes living in this Orange County bubble that we live in.
Beautiful.
It's beautiful, but you know what? Sometimes it can desensitize us to what's really happening around the world. Like you said, there's many different colors and shades and cultures and all of those things. But sometimes living right here, we forget things can be black and white, and if things don't go our way, we're all upset and we pout and cry.
So true.
Look what's happening around the world. So it's nice to see people like yourself that took a leap of faith and said, you know what, I want a better life, and I'm going to come to America to seek that. So tell us a little bit about, once you got here to the Los Angeles area, what happened with, what was you mentioned 100,000. I want to make 100,000.
Yes.
How did you work towards that goal?
Well, it was a long way. First, I had to learn language, right? And it was, of course, a journey. Then I wanted to get some kind of, education here, even though I studied psychology in Russia and music. By my education, I was a conductor of traditional Russian orchestra.
Wow.
Didn't happen to have my own orchestra, but nevertheless, I was teaching music. And when we came here, I wanted to I wanted to create some kind of, financial base. So, first jobs, I was hired to work as an apartment manager in Los Angeles when I didn't really speak English. It was
Hi.
it was
Give me your money for
funny.
rent.
Well, it was a little bit better vocabulary, but let's say, you're talking to a plumber.
Right.
That was interesting experience. So I enrolled myself into a college as soon as I could. Just to give you a glimpse how difficult it was at that time. It was also, we're all humans. We have our things that we have to overcome. And so for me, it was a huge barrier even to ask on the bus, how to buy a ticket. So I was walking for 3 days to the college because I was afraid to ask.
Oh, that's understandable. It's a scary thing to do, especially in a scary new place,
And so I studied child development, and then we bought a house in Denver. I started my own business, yoga preschool. At first it was
yoga preschool.
Right. It was one of the first ones in the country, I'm sure, because it was like 20 years ago or something. So at first it was regular preschool. I was, teaching kids, ABCs, 1, 2, 3s. But as soon as I got deeply into yoga and I started learning about energies and meditation, and I was like so into that I'm like, I need to show kids how to meditate. And so we expanded our childcare. It became a large home childcare. And I was teaching kids how to meditate, like 3-4 years old. They can sit for 3-5 minutes.
I needed
quietly.
That when I was a kid.
And so that was a great experience, actually. We had an amazing program. We always were busy. I did have a successful business. And as I was on the peak of that development, I actually decided to change again.
Wow. So here you are. You moved from LA as an apartment manager and all of that. And then you venture to Denver, Colorado, which is a beautiful place. Nice and cold in the winter, but gorgeous there. And now you're going through the yoga, you're teaching, and now it's time to pivot and make another change. I want to hear about that.
Yes. So I got into spiritual numerology. And at first I actually stumbled on that when I was 33 years old, still in Russia, married, but being deeply unhappy in my marriage. So that's how I always can connect to my clients, because I always feel their pain. I know how they feel. So I had to heal myself going through this healing crisis. And I was looking for anything that could help, and at that time I became a believer. And I stumbled upon this spiritual numerology, and I thought, herbs are good, meditation is good, this is good, emotional balance is good, spiritual numerology, this is voodoo. Forget about that.
Yeah.
Well, 10 years later, while we already was here, I was at the book signing event. It was by Sue Frederick. She lives in Denver, Colorado, in Boulder, actually. And it was very interesting experience for me, because she was showing how she was actually really helping people by using spiritual numerology to find their destiny, to help them with their life purpose. And I thought that would be hard to imagine, to so many different stories to put them in one book. And so I decided to take a training. As I was taking a training, all of a sudden I discovered my psychic abilities, which was shocking for me, because I realized that I can sense something about other people which I could not possibly know logically. So it took for me about 2 years. It was such a shocking experience. I'm like thinking about, I am a regular, average, everyday person. Why would I know something about another person without possibly knowing about that? So there was a woman who I told about the name of the book without even knowing that she's writing a book. During the training, I could see what people could be wearing, what is their color. I could still sense, if I work with people, how they feel inside and what is the best way for them to develop. I'm getting the spiritual messages. So if you can only imagine that would happen to you.
Right.
So that was pretty shocking. I remember going to my girls and telling them, oh my goodness, I just told this person this, and this, but I didn't know that.
They're like, sure, Mom.
Exactly. Yeah. They were teenagers at that time. They're like, Mom, get over yourself.
Yeah.
So it took for me 2 years.
2 years.
To actually test and believe and, to accept that. And once I learned that this is a real tool that could be helpful, Jen, I just could not continue my comfortable life in my 2-story house, with comfortable income. I thought this is my moral obligation to bring it to the people.
So what happened from there? So you've had a new awakening, so to speak, and say, this is a gift that I have. What led you into your current responsibilities to the community, something that I can tell you really enjoy, working with people's relationships and helping them? What was that, the transition that led you right to that type of satisfying work?
It was also very interesting.
Oh.
I wish there would be one straight line in my life,
You're like going this way.
But it never was. And so I just decided that I am going to bring this knowledge to the people, while Sue actually coached me on waiting a little bit for a better time. As a real estate broker, you can understand that I had to wait for the good moment for me to sell my house so I could have this financial net to start the business, because any business you start, you just can't operate on zero.
You need capital.
Yes. So that's what I did. I patiently waited, and according to my numerology, it also was a better time. So it was my personal year 5, which is a place for change and travel and all these kinds of things. That's when I sold the house, and I was very pleased with that. So I moved to this area, to California, simply because my daughter and my sister lives nearby. So I also wanted to be closer to my family. And I started as a spiritual coach and life purpose coach, and I started working, and I started doing all these things. And there was something was not really 100% working for me. So I went to a business coaching event by Christian Michelson in San Diego. He's a well-known business coach. And I was like, well, can you tell me, he's also very intuitive and business, very interesting combination. I think all, truly successful business people have their intuition developed to at least some degree, right?
Absolutely,
yes.
Sure.
So he told me, you actually a relationship coach.
Really?
I was fighting it for as long as I could. When you see me being very passionate, working with people now, you would not believe it. But I was. That rebellious side of me, from being Russian and to survive in my country, you had to develop this quality. Otherwise, you just become a doormat.
Sure. Everybody walks over the top of you.
Yeah. Propaganda and all that kind of stuff. So that rebellious part of me was like, no, I'm just going to do this. And surely life brought me to this place, and it was one of my talented genius daughters who actually told me to look at this side a little bit closer as well. And then I'm like, okay, universe is giving me hints here. Maybe I should consider. Once I started working with couples, with people on their personal things, oh my goodness, that was a blast. It was just like,
this is what I was meant to do. I've been fighting and resisting it, but this is what I was meant to do.
I just realized that I fit the mold, and the results were just just from the start, I intuitively know what people need. Later, I read all these 20, 40 books on the subject. And of course, even before that, I was trained in divorce prevention as a divorce strategist through Tony Robbins' company. I just didn't use it really.
Right.
Or more exactly, I didn't realize that I was using it, because even my very first client was actually in connection with my life purpose, my relationship client. But as soon as I accepted my gift, because we all have gifts.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yes, it's just started really working for me and blossoming, and I still enjoy it.
Wow, that's wonderful. So I'm sure since you started your business, everything's been perfect. It's been smooth, no problem. Or what challenges have you faced since you started your business, and what have you done to overcome some of those challenges?
Well, that's a good question. Let's see. In the very beginning, when I started my first business, right, I could not even say no. That was, even though I still had that rebellious side, but it was more like inside, So when people were asking me, "Oh, can you please bring our child to our home?"
Sure.
I did, John.
Yeah.
You would be surprised. I did all these kinds of things. I just could not physically tell my clients no. I still hesitate, I have to admit. I'm a people pleaser.
I understand
but I
that.
had to develop a little bit of that kind of, self-respect and self-confidence.
Your time's valuable.
To kind of, have boundaries and all that kind of stuff. Business teaching you a lot. It teaches you to have self-discipline, right? Because we don't have a boss. We're our own boss.
We look in that mirror and say,
Right.
"Boy, my boss, I don't like my boss." Wait a minute, that's me.
Yes, self-discipline, Of course, I constantly still educate myself. That part I didn't really have to do a whole lot. This is a natural part of me, but I do appreciate the opportunity when you're doing your own business also to keep learning, because this is like essential part of my work. You can't be a coach. I just met my friend yesterday and we were talking about that. You can't be a coach and stop learning,
That's right.
So, yeah.
Now here's a question. So a pandemic hit us in 2019-ish to 20 started.
Yeah.
And now, it's still out there, but we've learned to cope with it.
Yeah.
How did that affect your business?
You're asking amazing questions today, John. This is another interesting story.
Do tell.
Because before pandemic, I was working in the office. And once it started happening, of course, we all say it in the home, right? Shortly before that, coincidentally, it's just miraculous how sometimes things seemingly, happening to you kind of out of blue sky, but then they work out at the end. Coincidentally, I just shortly before pandemic, I started working online, and I created my profile on the site. It's a big site called thumbtack.com, kind of like Angie's List. Lots of things there. There are services toward homes, but they also have this side of psychologists, counselors, life coaches, and I was in life coach category later, again, to gravitate more towards relationships. And that's where I started working. Once we stayed at home, I just put all my attention there. And again, it was a blast.
Wow. So you adjusted, you pivoted to still accomplish helping people during a pandemic.
Yeah.
And let me ask you this as well. So some people have asked, we're both part of the Mission Viejo Chamber of Commerce.
Yes.
Big shout out to the chamber.
Yay.
What is it, why did you join the chamber is probably a better question. What you're already going through your business.
Mm-hmm.
You're now here in Mission Viejo living.
Mm-hmm.
And just one day you say, I'm going to join the Chamber of Commerce. Or why
Right.
did you do it?
Right. Well, first of all, I really love Mission Viejo
It's a great city.
because when I came here to Orange County just to kind of see what this place is, because at first I stayed in San Bernardino with my sister, and I was driving on La Paz, where all those beautiful trees growing,
Beautiful
with
there.
purple flowers, if I could remember the name, but it's just amazing place, and I just felt I'm at home. Once I came here, I'm like, okay, this is the place where I'm gonna be. And when you're a business owner and you work all the time at home and you look at the screen all the time, right? You want to have some kind of human interaction, and you want to have this interaction with people like you,
Sure.
people who are driven,
Yeah.
people who are interested in many things. And I actually really enjoy going to Chamber because you just getting this vibe, of entrepreneurship, if I can pronounce it, and new things, and just that necessary component of human interaction. And there is another thing which you mentioned, like what is it, like how do you create your day and your week, or what did I learn from my business? I'm actually consciously structuring my Tuesday morning to go by 8 a.m.
It's early.
For self-employed to Chamber, because you're getting sometimes too comfortable, too complacent of creating your own schedule. So I actually use it as a kind of motivation to feel the normal structure.
Yeah, and what you're referring to is something that I look forward to on Tuesdays as well. At the Mission Viejo Chamber of Commerce, we have our Daybreakers networking breakfast.
Yes.
Every Tuesday. We'll start up next Tuesday here after the holidays. And 8 a.m., Norman P. Murray Center. We all meet there with, that's all right, with business like-minded people. And what's really interesting is these are people from all different types of business. You talk about plumbers, electricians, people that are in the computer business, mortgage business like us, real estate, you name it, photographers, and from all backgrounds, walks of life. And here we come together for about an hour and a half or so. We share our pitches for our business. We get to know each other, build relationships, right?
Yes.
And that's what I find. I've been there about 7 years. And I find that when we have guests there, they feel, wow, this is a family. This isn't just some networking group.
Yes.
Is that what you
Absolutely
experienced?
true. Yeah. I went to different, groups also. And the vibe that Mission Viejo Chamber gives you, it's really, group of friends, family. That's like my business family. I can ask people questions. Everybody's very open. And we also help each other with the business. I hear people saying, this client could use your services, or this person could use your services, which is very nice, especially when you're running your own business.
Yeah, it's so important to be, like you said, with a group of like-minded, business-oriented people that are looking to not just grow their own business, but they're also looking out for your business too. And who can I connect you with? And that's what I find. It's not who, you might not need a mortgage, but someone may need a mortgage or something like that. Yeah. So we're really good about doing that in the chamber, and you've been a welcome addition to that. You're faithful at those meetings, and that's really what it takes to to be what we need to get out of business. If you're a person who truly is a giver, then that's the right place for you to be every Tuesday.
I absolutely agree.
So I have a final question for you. As a small business owner, what advice would you give to somebody who is trying to be successful as a small business owner? What advice would you have for them?
That's a good question, John. I think what is very important is to know what your core values are, what you're standing for, and realign yourself with these values, especially as we moving into this new year. Very important to reposition yourself, to find your core, to reconnect to the spirituality, to know your why. Why are you doing what you're doing, right? Because as business owners, we sometimes getting caught up in the routine, with serving others. I don't know about you, but I sometimes forget about my own needs.
I know. I forget to eat lunch sometimes during the day.
Like self-care and that kind of stuff, beautiful. But at the core of the things, I want to know why I am doing what I'm doing. I want to know what I'm bringing today to the people. That's why every day, every morning, I start with a prayer, I start with a meditation and journaling, realigning, recentering. What is my core? Where is my spirituality? What am I bringing to the people today? And that's what I think is the main thing, to know your why, and then you can find resources, and then you can find people, you can learn, whatever you need, but you need to know your core. You need to start with your why.
That's excellent advice. And, Elena, you have been just a real source of knowledge and encouragement for those of us that are small businesses looking to be successful, not just ourselves, but help others to be successful. And it's been nice getting to know you better, understanding a little bit more of your backstory. The reason why I didn't want to talk too much about it, because I want you to visit with her personally. Set up that one-to-one appointment with Elena. Learn more about her background, share backgrounds, share business tips, and hopefully we can all help our businesses grow even more in 2024. So again, yes. Elena Vit, relationship and life purpose coach. I love that. It's really great getting to know you better. Glad to have you in the Chamber of Commerce, and let's make it a great 2024.
Thank you, John. Pleasure to be here.